hey, what's up, good people? It's your girl, DocSunne. You're in for a treat. It is another episode of a Dope Chick Spiritual Journey. And I have an amazing guest. I have known her for many years, but more importantly, I have experienced her greatness by way of watching her host. I have watched her facilitate, and I've even watched her on a couple of TV shows too. Hint, hint, if she wants to share that as well. But what I can say about this woman is that you are in for a vulnerable, honest, raw, and uplifting conversation. So with that said, Kiki, is that what you want me to call you? Kiki, guess what? Introduce yourself to the good people.
Hi, everyone. As Sunne-Ryse said, my name is Kiki Orr. I am many things, or I should say I've done many things, right? Facilitator, host. As Sunne-Ryse said, I've actually been on a dating reality show. I am mother to 3 amazing daughters, 2 adult daughters, 1 teen. So I'm a soon-to-be empty nester. I have done lots of things, but I think right now I want to say that I am in this beautiful space of transitioning, really rest, right? Catching up to Key is what I'm calling this season. Catching up to Key. So
I like that. Well, you know what? While we talk about catching up to Key, and I have to say, I love that. That sounds like a, just an episode, dare I say, or an experience that people, right? Because catching up to Key, we can all do a lot of catching up to ourselves. When you think of catching up to Key and this period of rest, and I say the word divinity, what comes up for you?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, divinity. Oh, wow. Okay. So I think for me, okay, so when I think about catching up Key and divine, like I think about divinity, I also think about timing, right?
Okay.
So divinity or divine timing. So I had been employed for a number of years. I ain't even going to say with who, but I've been employed for a number of years. And when I was in this particular work, it had been very toxic. It had been very draining, even though I enjoyed the work immensely. I love the work and I also love the people, but you know that there are other people that can make things really challenging and hard for you. And that was the case. And there was a lot of harm that was being done to me in this particular space and place, but I wouldn't leave.
Come on now.
I wouldn't leave. I wouldn't leave. All the telltale signs.
People that you would break it open, honest and real, and you probably just busted open somebody's business. Okay,
I wouldn't leave, right? I was at this organization, and for me, at the time, and of course now I'm talking hindsight, right? But when I was in it, I couldn't leave, and I think at the moment it wasn't that I just lost my mother, but now this is going on the 3rd year, so it's still very, very early. But this notion of being able to, of staying, of showing, improving my work, and saying, no, you're wrong. Whatever assumptions that you have of me, or whatever perceptions you have of me, they cannot be right. And I'm going to sit through this hurt. I'm going to sit through this harm because I'm going to have you turn it around. And you know what happened? More hurt and more harm was bestowed upon me. The more that I was trying to fight that. And I realized that the battle that I was fighting was not mine to fight, right? So
let me ask you something though, because that's juicy. That's I don't want to rush.
No, all right.
So when you think of what was happening in your mind, right? Because you were clear that harm was happening, right? There was an awareness, because you said it, I enjoyed my work, but there were these things. What was happening in your mind, or what were you telling yourself about staying, even though there was a part of you that knew this isn't good for me?
Yeah. Here's what I told myself, because you know me, I'm gonna tell it how it is. I told myself that, am I going to be able to find oh boy, here we go. Am I going to be able to find another job? Am I able to be competitive in this world now where there's masters and doctorates and all of that? Am I, it was all of this stuff. If I leave now without having something else lined up, am I going to be able to take care of my needs, right? Not just mine, but my daughter's. She's in private school, all of this stuff, right? But what about my bills? What about food? Like all of that. And so at the time, people generally leave. When people leave, they generally sometimes leave because they have a plan, is what I thought, right? They have this plan, whether the plan is they now found another job or they have a nice nest egg set up so they can do that. And that wasn't the case for me. So I felt really in that moment trapped. Like, I need to be here until I find something else. But the interesting part about that is that I still was unable to do the work to be able to. So I had the awareness, but for whatever reason, I could not move. Like I literally was like, I can't move, because I thought that it was saying something about me. I kept saying, fight. My in my DNA is about fighting, right? Fighting to be heard, fighting to be understood, fighting all of that, but not realizing that I'm fighting against someone else or an entity, as opposed to fighting for my own peace, fighting for my own sanity, fighting for my own joy, fighting for my own relaxation, fighting for my own mental health and well-being. And so it was about them. And then I had to realize that this was about me. But I'm going to tell you, Sunne-Ryse, I didn't realize it was about me because I never left on my own. They was like, bye, you got to go. And so the very thing that I was afraid of, i.e. not nest egg, not having something, still was the thing at the end of it.
Yeah. Oh, how many times in life I told y'all this was how many people are listening right now and they're like, that's me. That's me. I'm sitting there looking at you like, girl, that was me. Where we are insistent about creating a story that this is what we're doing for others. When God is trying to tell us, I ain't asked you to do that for them. I asked you to do it for yourself. I asked you to fight for yourself. I asked you to fight for your own peace. But the swirl of all the other things prevent us from actually loving and caring for ourselves in a way that will have us create the joy, create the abundance, create the love, create the peace.
Right.
So tell me about this. Go ahead.
Because how can, to that point, how can I create the joy, the abundance, and the peace if I am entrenched in the toxicity and the pain and the hurt? It's like, and it's not, I mean, obviously we have these things, we know that, like a rose can grow from concrete, all of that stuff. Like, I get all of that, right? Because the many things, even in the Buddhist religion, like the Lotus Sutra is on mud, right? So we know that beautiful things can come from yuck, if you will. But at the same time, I feel like you need to be able to create the space and the pause and the time for those things to occur. Like, yes, I can do it, but the drain that it would take for me to do it while I'm there, so it's no wonder. So I'm going to say this, even though I was saying the pain and the hurt and all of this, and I couldn't move, I knew that at that moment that something had to stop in order for me to continue to grow in that. And it had to be the job, but I give myself grace to say, it's no wonder you couldn't create the things that you wanted to create, even going as far as looking for something else, because you were too beaten down in that moment. You needed to be able to remove that, or have it be removed, because have it be removed
that part.
in order for you to, one, take a deep breath. And I will say, once it got removed from me, I was, I have to laugh because, and I know somebody could relate to this, because even after it was removed and all that I knew, I was crying in the deep pain that this happened. How could this happen? Like, I'm the best. I am the best. I'm supposed to go on my terms, not your terms, right? Like, that's when I'm supposed to go, but I didn't realize that also it was my terms, right? There was a much about me that was kind of willing that, if you will, right? There was parts of me that was saying, and parts because I'm a practicing Buddhist, that was saying, it's time. It's time, but you're not going to do it. So we're just going to create the space to have it be done. So it happened, right? And then now I'm on the couch, and I'm literally on the couch, and I'm crying and I'm upset because how could this happen to me, even though I quasi wanted it to happen, but how did this happen to me? And then I just spent some time resting, right? When I said catching up with Key, I'm resting. And then you think that that's good, right? And then I start to have this thing about resting, that like, you cannot sit around, you don't have a nest egg, you don't have this, you don't have that, you don't have, Black girl,
well, come on now.
Black girl, you don't have the right, the privilege, the luxury to rest. Oh, I don't? And I start to feel like, I'm like, wait, do I not? Do I not? And then I had to take another serious pause. And I said, wait a minute now. I know that like, I need to be able to pay my bills. I know that I need to be able to do the things that I need to do to take care of myself. But I said, you know what? There are resources out there, and I'm going to tap into them, and I'm going to utilize them, but I'm going to get what I need at this moment. And what I need at this moment is to catch up to me, because like jumping from the, what they say, from the fire to the frying pan, or from the frying pan to the fire is not the way. I need you to sit with yourself and to really get clear, and also to be reminded, not even to get, because you already know, Key, but to be reminded of what it is to bloom, because that's my, like, just bloom is my podcast. Like what it is to bloom, what it is to step into yourself again, because this particular situation that I was in wasn't new, and yet I was interacting with it as if it were new.
Tell the people what you mean. Like, come on,
so it wasn't new. I'd been in a situation at a work before where this occurred, right? And it was before, and it was 12 years prior, but nonetheless, I was there. But sometimes we forget, right? You forget. It's almost like, I remember my grandmother used to say, well, she didn't used to say this, but like, I remember I said to my grandmother, my grandmother has 6 children, and I said, how could you endure the pain of going through childbirth 6 times? Like, that is insane to me. And she said, well, after some time go by, after you have the first one, you actually don't remember the pain, right? She said, that's not something that you remember. And then when it's time to have the baby again, you're like, oh wait, I remember. So yeah, so I actually had almost forgotten what I had experienced, but not just forgetting about the pain that I experienced, more importantly, I forgot how I overcame that particular last situation. Okay, I forgot what I needed to do. In that last situation, in that last season, I forgot. Okay,
so here's a good question, and I want, like, because I had a similar experience, right, where in situation rolls out, right? God kicked me out, like, boom, beat it. Get into another similar situation, stuff starts happening again. And I'm like, woe is me. Is it me? What's happening to me? Why are people doing this to me? And the lesson God gave me was, yeah, but you the common denominator. So I was like, okay. All right now, God. For you, what's been the epiphany having 2 similar situations kind of like almost like mirror themselves in your life?
Oh, that's good. What I learned is that I don't listen, and that I don't listen, and that I don't trust myself. That's what, because the signs of even leaving, even in the other job, I had been there for like 10 years, like like really grew with them. And the thing is that when I grew with them from a place, a space that I didn't think that I was good enough to start. Right. So when I got into
when you started with them,
it was my welfare. It was my, like, really like my first kind of good income generating job from being on welfare. So whatever it is that I had garnered about myself as I was growing, like I was growing in skill sets, I was growing in knowledge, I was growing in all of that. But how was I growing in terms of my enoughness, my valuing of who I am, the
mindset of who you are?
Right. So when it was like, oh, you need to go, and the same come
on now.
The same conversation came up again. because at that time, like, so I had my associate's degree when I started that job umpteen years ago. Umpteen years ago, I still have my associate's degree. And someone said, well, there was so much time in between there. If that was the issue, you could have done so many other things to have you not have that experience. But I was very clear that I did not want to continue to go and add on to my education. Or that wasn't my story in the plan. The only reason I would ever be doing it is because I feel like society deems that it's something that is necessary. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And so here I am again years later. And then I'm like, well, am I going to be marketable? It's the same conversation. But what got me out of it the first time was I realized that the story that I was telling myself wasn't the story for me. It was really about society. I was looking at societal norms, what society would say about somebody in a certain age, how far you should be, how much money should be in your bank account. All of those things is what I was experiencing about myself, but not really looking at me. What is it that I wanted and all of that stuff. So that's what I did then. What I did this time now was similar, the same thing. But the difference this time is that I now have more years of experience. Now I'm really literally adding, and I also added onto my spiritual practice was stronger than it had been. So while after it occurred, I did sit on the couch and I did have a woe me moment. Mm-hmm. It definitely did not last as long as it probably historically had lasted. That was the part. It did not last as long.
No. And I believe just knowing who you are and given who you are, this probably will not happen to you again. Because that clarity that you just described, and I think sometimes we forget as humans that we will make mistakes, right? That we will not listen to our spirits, to God, to that divine voice or inkling that occurs for us. And it'll keep talking. I say it's the GPS. Right? It's the GPS that will keep, this is where you're going. Oh, no, you don't. Oh, no. Okay. Let's GPS you back. And I think your GPS recentering you back to those, I am good enough. I got the years of experience. If I did it before, I can do it again. Yeah. That's a new muscle that you get to flex in moving forward.
That's right. And the other part too. So I think this is very important. So prior to me going back, when I say going back, the most recent job, I had taken some time off. And I remember saying, like, I was experiencing anxiety and panic attacks. I took some time off, right? And like literally exhausted all my PTO time. And a friend of mine who I'm practicing Buddhist, and I used to say that I was the most non-practicing Buddhist ever. And then I was like, you got to stop saying that. Because if you keep saying that, you know what you're going to be? The most non-practicing Buddhist ever.
Come on.
Right?
Now.
So if there's a moment when you take a pause, okay, then that's one of the things that I love about the Buddhist religions, because I feel like I don't feel guilty about it, right? So I go, if you take a pause, you just start from right where you are. And that's the thing. Ooh, it's so in alignment with who I am. It's like, start from right. Okay, so you didn't do it yesterday. You didn't chant yesterday. Okay, so we just start today. But what happened was, when I was going through this experience, a friend of mine called me up and she said, you've been on my heart and my spirit. And then I had shared with her what I'd been experiencing with the work. And so she was like, let's start chanting. She was like, we're going to start chanting. She would call me every day. Every evening we started chanting, and I was scheduled to go back to the office every day, every morning. And then the next day I was like, I can't go today. Next day, I can't go today. But we kept chanting and chanting. And one of the things that she reminded me is, in the Buddhist religion, it's about facing our challenges. That's the only way over, is like, you got to get through it. You got to face it. And it tells us that we kind of practice with the roar of a lion. Like, we don't kind of back down in that regard. And I was like, yeah. Then the street part of me coming, you ain't nobody punk. You ain't nobody punk. Ain't gonna let nobody like ice you out of a job. What you doing, son? Like, we're not doing that, right? We're not doing that.
You must have forgot.
You must be crazy. So when I had to go back when I finally did, like, we chanted and it was consistent, I went back into the office. And I will tell you this, day one, I want to say later on in that afternoon, I probably had a slight panic attack, like a very small one. But I did not have after that. I did not have it after that. And I went in there really owning my joy and my, even though I know it was a challenge and it was hard and I went in there and I was like, you are not going to allow external circumstance or people dictate to you your joy, your happiness, and your peace, because what you have just done is relinquish all of your power. Right. And then I have not only that, but I'm a supervisor, a director. I have staff that are looking to me, not just about them, but me looking to me. I have daughters. I was like, no, you're going to go there. You're going to hold your head up as high as you can. And you're going to do the work that you are designed to do, and the work that you're designed to do. And I'm not just talking about task work, right? I'm just talking about the typing and stuff. I'm not the work in terms of who you are as a being, right? You're going to go and you're going to show people, and not that I have to prove. This is not about proving to anybody anything, but really unto myself, that like with my faith and my strength and the power and the support that I have, that me being here is as that I'm choosing it, right? I'm choosing everything along this way, baby. You've chosen it. So I did. So I went back in, I did, and still the end result still culminated in them saying, tap, tap, goodbye. However, that hump that I needed to get over, that consistency of practice, of chanting, I needed to strengthen that. They were, and the Buddhist religion called like what they call it, I always say this, my Bodhisattva, right? So they were the ones that actually brought me back to the Buddhist practice, right? They were the one that made it so hard and so painful for me that it's like, I know that alone can't get through.
You knew you could not do it on your own.
I could not.
This is the whole epitome of a dope chick spiritual journey, right? So regardless, for me, I tell people, for me, it's my faith is in God, Yahweh, all of that. But I believe that our God is so big that there are various ways that God will pull us back. And for you, exactly what you're talking about. You had become so dependent on yourself, your own skills, your own talents, your own knowledge, your own dopeness, that when those things could no longer sustain you, your faith said, all right, come on back, sis. We here when you're ready. We here when you're ready. And I want everyone who's watching to understand that, like, faith will call you back home. So whatever you're going through, the transitions, like what Kiki has spoken about, the moments on the couch, right? The moments in time when your spirit is like, it's time to say bye, sis. It's time to say bye, bruh. But you're like, but wait, can I? Am I able to? Will I? Let me tell you something. That spiritual journey will, if you're listening and you're obedient, it will have you thriving and soaring higher than before.
So much so. So much so. And I have to laugh at myself. But I will say this. I think it's also important that we have these experiences. And again, as you pointed out, and thank you for pointing that out, that there were these two parallel moments that happened, years apart, like light years apart, 12 years apart. But as you said, like the common denominator was me. And it's a reminder for me to continue to stay connected to my spiritual practice, right? And to continue to listen. And when I'm listening, there is a piece that, honey, I'm just be like sitting there. I will tell you, even the other day, I was sitting on the couch and I was like, I said, something was happening. Like I get unemployment, all of that stuff, right? And now something happened and it cut off. Now, early on, I was boo-hooing because it had been weeks since I got paid. Now it's been 3 weeks again. I didn't shed a tear. I didn't worry. I just was like, I'm good. What's going to be is going to be. I'm taking all the necessary steps as it relates to what I needed to provide them with, et cetera, et cetera. But I even start to realize, like, again, you don't have to worry. Your needs are met. You are taken care of. And if you feel like you don't have something, you know who to call, you know who to access, you are good. Like I'm going to say no longer, because we never know until we particularly get into that situation again. But in this moment, I am reminded of the importance and value of listening yet again, right? Trusting in myself, the power of rest is so important. And I also have to ask myself, when will you necessarily get this time again? That's the other part. Like we may lose out on like work or stuff like this. And it's like, when do I get this time again to like rest, to catch up to Key, to really sit down and listen to me, to have all these beautiful, profound moments, connections with my teenage daughter, some things that have been revealed that I was not, some things have been revealed to me that I don't necessarily know that I was privy to because I was always moving. And my middle daughter said to me, if you were not home now, if you were not home in this moment, you would not have been, you may not have been able to catch that, right? And I'm so grateful for that. If I wasn't home in this moment, what happened to me then, there was a gentleman and I'm dating and it's still very early on, but I had met someone. But if I wasn't there, like it's all like these things that are like,
I call them, this is what I call it.
What you
it's
call
the
them?
blessing in the chaos. It is
Yes.
the blessing in the chaos. We allow sometimes our eyes to be deceived by the chaos and forget who we become, which is the blessing inside the chaos. Because the chaos is what we see externally. It's what we're looking at, right? Oh, the sky is falling. This is happening. This is happening. But the blessing is, oh, the sky is falling. Wait a minute. If I put my hand up, I could potentially stop what's happening. Oh, shoot. I didn't realize my hands were this strong. Oh, shoot. I didn't realize I had a tribe. That all of a sudden, when we turn inward to God and our spiritual guide, we gain access to parts of ourselves that we were not aware of. And to your point, the connection to people. Your daughters are better because of the blessing inside the chaos. Like that is the gift. That is the gift. Listen, we probably need a part 2 of this because
I feel we do.
Guests,
I can't believe we're done already. No.
My guests are going to be like, bring her back.
That's so much more.
So let us agree that we definitely need a part 2.
Oh, we need a part 2. I got some other stuff that I want to share. So yes, part 2 for sure.
Well, give me one thing that someone who's experiencing a transition like what you're experiencing right now, what is the number one thing to support them through this gap space? What would you say it is?
Lean into it.
Oh, that gave me chills.
Lean into it. I think so often, and this is so often we want to run, we want to find an exit, how to escape from whatever it is that we're experiencing. I say lean into it, because lean into it is where the lessons are. Lean into it may even be where the pain is, but it's also where the biggest lessons is going to come. So while it may feel uncomfortable, while it may even feel like it hurts a bit, I say lean into it, sit in it, and just trust, really, I know it sounds so cliche, but really it is something to be said about trusting the process. And the process is not this arbitrary kind of process, is whatever it is that we create for ourselves. Because I think that's the thing, right? People say trust the process, but if you don't know what that is because you've never experienced processes before, then that sounds like I don't even know what you're talking about, right? So what's the process? Lean in on not just your own understanding, but if there's a higher power, right? Lean into that as well. And if it is in it, and if it is you, because not everybody have, but if it is you for now, because most often is it, but if it is you for now, just then lean into your understanding of ways in which you've overcome before. Because I think sometimes we lose sight of that. If I've been through it once before, I can get through it again. And here's the difference. I have new tools. I don't have the tools that I have 12 years now. I didn't have that all before. I didn't have that. I didn't know. I don't even have today sitting here. I have something today that I didn't have yesterday.
Amen. I'm calling today, lean into the chaos. Lean into the chaos. That's where the blessing is. That's where the blessing is.
Yeah.
So listen, everybody. Kiki promised she's going to come back and do a part 2. So we're going to do a part 2, and we're going to expand and go further. Take her advice, because it's good advice. Lean into the transition, lean into the chaos that's happening. And while you're leaning in, you can join me April 15th, 2023, West Orange, New Jersey, for the Big Leap. If you missed the one in January, you do not want to miss April. We're going harder. We're going bigger. This time we're talking about soaring to new heights. So if you are living in a situation like Kiki, this transition, you got some big dreams, some big goals that you're working on, we're talking soaring to new heights, strategy, inspiration, and most importantly, powerful women connecting and helping each other soar. So I hope to see you there. The link is in the bio. Kiki, how can people find you? Because I know people are looking for you.
Thank you. Right now, you could find me. I do things on TikTok, just Bloom _ Kiki Orr. Also Instagram, Kiki Orr by my name. I'm in the process of revamping my podcast, Just Bloom, and I'm going to be joined with friends this go round. So I'm excited about that. And you could also see me as a recurring co-host on Bronx Net television. In fact, it's airing this Saturday, and I should probably have it close to me.
Don't
but
worry,
it's called The Next Chapter with Kitty Rose. Thank you. Next Chapter with Kitty Rose, Lifestyle. And that's on Bronx Net. Once a month, I co-host with her. So yeah.
I will drop that in the chat.
Thank you.
Everyone, clap it up for your girl, Kiki, DocSunne. Once again, a Dope Chick spiritual journey. We talked to amazing, powerful women with beautiful stories of real life, and how God, divinity, faith just calls them up, out, and forward. So tune in next time. I love you, good people. Deuces, deuces, deuces.